My name is Duncan Welder, here with RISC, and glad to see you guys join this morning. I'm super excited about the 7.2 rollout. Have our first couple groups that are installed in their production environments over these last couple weeks and scheduling folks now. A lot of these are changes, things driven out of the last year's user conference, so always like to see that connection where we get feedback for different features and functions and then actually get to incorporate them into the system. So what I am going to do is really very straight off of my PowerPoint here. I could step you through this guy and it would talk about all those new features, but I always prefer to see them inside the system. So what I'll do is jump right over into my Internet Explorer here and move through the application that way. Again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to drop them in that chat. We're going to start off looking at those new learner features and functions. Some of those cosmetic, some of those really more substantial, and I always like to start off in Learner, take a look at any new changes, because that gives us then the ability to back into the back office side of the world and see what changes are there. So I'm just logging into my demo learner system, nothing particularly exciting here, but I want to talk about a couple things just from a navigational standpoint right now as I get logged in. One of those, let me go to my training plan just for fun, is the ability to add menu favorites. So if you notice this little pink heart over to the right side of my screen and this little heart with a minus sign there on my plan, and is what will allow me to set favorites inside Learner. So my plan is already a favorite there. If I unchecked it on my plan, you'd see that it disappears off of my favorites link there. But if I want a shortcut, very similar to being able to set your own home page. So again, something that's fun. And just from a helpful navigational standpoint, you may also notice this little down arrow to the left-hand end of my breadcrumbs gives me a recently visited link. I'm sure you've seen these in different web browsers. As you open up a new tab or page, it will show you the last visited pages that you've had. Really do the same thing here inside Learner, and we'll see it in back office as well. So really just a navigational kind of ease of use function. The other thing that's worth mentioning while we're right here on this page in Learner are these pictures that you see out to the side. And there's actually quite a few of them if you look in different areas throughout the system. This is just a bank of pictures. They can be fixed to a specific page if you want. So maybe I want my training plan to have a particular image on it where I want, say in the My Competencies area, I wanted some kind of different graphic here. So something to think about as you're looking at moving into the system is saying, gosh, maybe I want to build some kind of bank of new images there that really represent our company and our branding. And again, you can let those just rotate through or fix those to specific pages. Purely a cosmetic change, but something that does, I think, make the site look and feel a bit more company branded there, and something I'm excited about. Right now, what you have to do is we'll upload those images. We don't have a interface for managing those inside the system itself. It's really just kind of a configuration setting at this point. But wanted to show those things that are really more, I think of as cosmetic changes inside Learner. One of the other things that you may have noticed as I was floating over that My Learner dropdown is some additions to this screen, and I know I kind of have all the options turned on in this demo system, so probably more than you'd see in your own production system normally anyway. Most of these things have been there for quite a while, right? My training and my plan, my advisor documents, approval for supervisors, approving students to go to training, being able to manage competencies, and development plans, dashboards. Been inside the system now for a few years, though I always feel like underutilized, and there's a great YouTube video out for setting dashboards if you're interested there. But these bottom three options, my community, my team manager, my managed teams, are all new animals in 7.2. My community is just that. I'm going to start out with people because it will make good sense here. I'm logged in as this Richard Arno person, so it shows me at the top of the screen. These comment cards and the data that gets displayed in them is configurable by organization, so you can choose how much or how little information you want included in these items. You'll also notice that it shows who I report to at the top, and then at the bottom, who is reporting to me. Now, if one of those folks is a supervisor, you'll see that supervisor icon there, because here, if I want to continue working up the chain, I can see Lisa. She reports actually back to me in this case, and then who else is reporting down to her. So it gives me the ability to navigate up and down through the hierarchy based on my primary supervisor field. Again, I know a lot of groups are importing that from things like SAP and Oracle or other HR systems. And if you do have that information populated, it just natively gives you that ability to navigate up and down through the hierarchy organizationally. A couple other things you'll see on this page that I've neglected to this point is this bio information and interests, and that's something I can update in the About Me section. I also have skill endorsements here at the bottom. You say, okay, how does that guy work? Well, if you're familiar with LinkedIn, one of the things you can do in LinkedIn is endorse someone for a skill, right? And say someone is maybe an expert in e-learning or in facilitating training, and you can give them an endorsement. One real difference here in VTA is that as an organization, as a company, you get to define your skill library, and you can also define reasons that people can endorse. So you see here, I've added some skills to myself, data normalization and SQL Server querying, but I don't have any endorsements for those. So basically, I've declared that I have those. These other skills, XAPI, TinCan, and C#, you can see I've got different people that have endorsed me for those skills. And as we search people later, I'll show you how to make those endorsements. The other things here in this My Community area, I mentioned the About Me. That is where I can come in and update bio information, update interest, and again, add skills, or in this case, if I wanted to delete a skill, I could do that and say, gosh, it's not something I actually do. So now I've removed that mechanics item off of my screen. The final thing under this My Community area is right there under blogs I follow. You say, okay, I don't even know where these blogs come from. Well, I'll show you that as well. Under the search function, it's been enhanced so I can search through blogs. When I do search for a blog, I can choose to follow the author or the skill that it's tied to. So in addition to allowing skill endorsements, any new blog article can be tagged back to a skill, and then if I follow that skill, in this case XAPI and TinCan, every time something new gets posted, it shows up in the blogs I follow area. I'll also show you how these blogs get created under the My Blog function there. But if you take a look, they actually look and feel just exactly like you see most blogs, right? I have the ability to unfollow someone. I can change ratings. I can see other articles from that same author if there are any there. So again, just a way I can browse through and see some additional information about my community. Mentioned those blogs coming into the system, and I know that always raises a security concern, especially with with some groups that are especially focused on very technical training or intellectual properties kind of things, you do have the ability to control who does and who does not blog. It's part of the learner user type settings, so you can have people that are just set to where they can browse the various blogs but can't actually input blogs. If I do have that ability and I can enter blog articles, I'll have the ability to go under my settings to my blogs, and if I wanted, I could input a new article there. Set a publish date, do I allow ratings, what's the title, what's the summary, and then I have, of course, my controls for inserting different elements in. And here at the bottom, you can see those different skills that I can use really to enhance the search function. So if I wanted to pick a couple skills here and add those to the selected skills for this new blog that I'm writing, they would show up. But again, all part of the new social function there. Something else, as an administrator, you should be aware of, and I'm certainly going to show you when we get into the back office side of the system, is that you can inactivate a blog, basically disable it so that no one else can see that guy. So here's that add article area. The other thing that you've noticed inside My Learner is this My Team Manager and My Manage Teams. Now, a bit of an odd animal, and in my mind, very, very similar to Advisor, in that in Advisor, I build a survey that lets me assign people to a team based on their answers. My Team Manager, very, very similar. I'm going to grab a group of teams here, the safety compliance, and I'm going to, let me just grab all my students here and take a handful of those folks. And now when I apply the filter, it's going to show up with my safety compliance items, if you will, and my students across the page. And the idea here is I can rank or rate a particular item, and that will assign someone to a particular team. So here for Brittany, I say her driving safety exposure is medium. Maybe that would put her on an infrequent driver's team that has training associated with it, but I might say that her first aid exposure is high. These graphics, you can define clearly these groups of teams you would create in your own system as well and make the assignments there. The other thing that you may have noticed on the top of this page is if you have training that's delivered in multiple languages, you can go through and select for a person the language that those training teams apply to. So if I give Brittany simplified Chinese, medium for driver safety, and I give Shane medium in English, then they would be assigned to two different teams, two different language training requirements there. Again, not applicable to everyone, but certainly something that is possible there. And again, a nice interface for doing this. I can collect a number of people at a time. I can also send those guys for review or just approve and save those so that the changes become active. One of the things that I can do as well, I can export those grids out to an Excel file. So if I want to keep track of that information, I can do it or take a look at it in some other way. I can also see under this My Manage Teams, the teams that have been assigned to me through that team management function. So again, gives me a way to just view those guys that have been assigned to me. And we'll take a look at this in the back into the back office side of the system. But essentially, think of it as almost a risk management kind of tool where I can go in and set up, again, essentially a survey, but some kind of item that lets me rank somewhat. It gives me more flexibility than just an either-or function that I would in a survey, and to see multiples on a screen at one time, just to make navigation a touch easier, but serving very, very similar functions. The last thing I was going to take a look at inside Learner is really under the search area, because there is quite a bit of enhancement in the search function here. We've traditionally had that browse catalog and search and be able to browse by competency through the course catalog. What's been added now is a people search, and a bit of a unique animal there, because I can search, of course, by a person's name, right? And I find Richard Arno there, or I could search maybe for a particular department, and I'll see, oh, maybe if I see if I can find my folks. There we go. So I type in my production department, and I get everybody in that list. And of course, will let me browse through and see, again, that person, if they had bio information, any skill endorsements, right? And you can see that I've endorsed Bridget for SQL query writing. If I wanted to, maybe I'll grab another skill here. I'll say about data mining, and the reason that I'm endorsing her is because she's been mentoring me on this, or I've observed her, or she's given a presentation. And again, these reasons for endorsement are something that you control on the company side. So I'll say mentoring in this case and hit OK, and now I've added another skill for. I can see her team members, and of course I can see her blogs, would be able to follow her. The other thing, just interesting on this people search, is I can, and let me refine my, or loosen my search a bit so that I get multiple people here that have some kind of match to the letters RIC. I can also go through and say, I want to see someone that has, RIC in their name, their department, their work area, their job title, and that has C# skills. And when I do that, these filters work together, so I can track down just the person that I'm looking for. So again, new function really to help find people, find out additional information about them, and then finally searching for blogs. And I can either search the text, so if I want to look for something that's API related, or if I want to look for something that is team related, I can do that and see importing students into a team out of this particular area, or I can search for authors as well. So a lot of different things I can do inside this learner area. Again, some of those cosmetic, some of those really new big features. The last thing I was going to show you from Learner, because I think it makes a great segue into admin or the back office, is how we're going to look at waived lessons. So if you've attended the last few user conferences, something that's come up is how do we set lessons up so that if someone tests out of a course, they can go straight to maybe a final lesson or get credit. So I've conveniently created this course called Course with Waived Lessons. And if I start that guy, you'll see that this is a 5-lesson course, and I've completed my pretest, and that's given me a waived status for these next 3 items and lets me come right down and fill out my evaluation. And the way that I did that is by going into back office, and I'll log in here. When I do that with a little bit of luck, I'll be smart enough to operate my sorry. had an assist on that one to help get me into the back office system. But now that I've managed to get my password correct, you notice that this looks very, very much the same, except we add this social function, and we'll take a look at that. But I'm going to start out taking a look at administrator and going into the course catalog because I want to look at that session that is set up that includes the waived lessons, and conveniently have it on this page. Right here, this is my course in the course catalog. It's set as self-study. If I take a look at my lessons, you'll see that those 5 that we looked at earlier are there. And if I just open up that pretest, you see that at the bottom of every lesson window now I get this item that says sequencing. If score is at least blank, then go to lesson blank. And I can use this really on any lesson type. So I happen to have on my pretest that if they make a 70, they can jump straight to lesson number 5. And if I step through these lessons, you see my pre-reading is still required, my module is required, my test shows as required, as does my evaluation. But if I take a look at a history record, and very specifically that history record that we just saw in Learner, I should have a session there on 3.1 where I've launched that course. And if I take a look at Richard's record, who we were logged in as before, you can see that my pretest was completed because my score was 100. It waived the next 3 lessons for me, which you wouldn't have seen in previous versions, right? You'd only have blank, started, and complete. But a nice new feature, new function inside the system that lets you track that information. Of course, it shows up on the training detail reports where it breaks out each individual lesson in that report. So again, lots of exciting things in Learner, and this is, I felt like, was a great transition over into the back office side of the system, since those waived lessons and really impact the way that you look and feel, or the look and feel of Learner itself. So a couple of the other things here in back office. Under this social area, that's where I can set up things like my skills, my blogs, and just looking at these icons, say my skill library, this should look fairly familiar to you. Skills, similar to the way that competencies live inside a competency group, they're going to live in some kind of skill category. So I'd build my categories out first, and then my skills. This is also where I can set those endorsement reasons, and I have some general utilities for things like merging skills or endorsement reasons together, just by basic cleanup. Under blogs, not a huge list of icons here. It just gives me the ability to view blogs that are out there. And let me change this from inactive to active in my filter. And I'll see those various blogs. And like I mentioned earlier, if there was a blog that was questionable or had some kind of issue, you could actually inactivate that guy right here through back office, and then it wouldn't show up for anyone else. So you see the checkbox there. You can also see at the individual blog level the skills it's associated with, and if there are any ratings and who rated that article. So again, nice to be able to get in and see all of that information, but it really drives more of that social learning function, the skill endorsements, the blogs, and how they're searched out. One of the other things that I'm excited about in this version, we see it a couple different places, is an overhaul to the enroll group and assign group functions. So you know that with teams, you've always been able to assign a group of people to a team at a time. The same with training sessions, where I can enroll a group of students at a time. In the past, that's been a relatively I don't say limited feature or function there, but it has some constraints in that you don't have every possible filtering option. Well, here with the new assigned group, it will work much more like populating a grid, where I say, gosh, I want to see everyone whose department is admin and production, and then I want to see anyone whose hire date is, oh, I'm sorry, everyone whose hire date is before, say, the 1st of this year, and then maybe everyone whose, say, job title or first name contains an E, and now I can apply that filter and get this obscure group that I may not ever actually need there. But basically, I have the ability to add multiple filters all the way through and select people. Again, clearly, if I had people that met all these criteria in my test database. The reason that you do see two student blocks here is because those things that are generic, like first name, hire date, they don't really apply to a particular site, are all grouped there together, where things like department or team, I need to pick the specific department for my site, so those fall under a site selector as well. And the exact same function is there for enrolling students into either scheduled sessions or historical sessions of courses where I can enroll a group, and maybe I want to take everyone in a particular say with an email address that contains RISC. And now when I apply the filter, I'll see all those folks. I could select them or move them back and forth depending on how you want it. And again, couldn't put in my additional completion information that you would normally be able to when you're assigning a group or enrolling a group into a session. So, nice feature, a little bit different navigationally than you've seen in the past, but wanted to point that guy out. I think it's a much more powerful tool, and I think it's become very intuitive if you're used to using the grids. It just follows that same pattern. A couple other things here. Wanted to mention those recently viewed pages because I mentioned in Learner that those were added, and you have the same thing now with Back Office. So if I want to jump, say, straight to my teams, I could do that just using that recently viewed list. One of the other things that's really a driver straight out of the user conference is here in reports, and that's the ability to run reports by primary supervisor and by performance manager. So here, just from a reporting standpoint, I'll make this super easy, just to list students report. In the past, you didn't have these two options, the performance manager and the primary supervisor. But here, if I pick my primary supervisor and I get a list of just the people that are set up in my system as primary supervisors, because it doesn't make sense to return a ton of data to you that says no one works for that person. But here, if I pick Richard, I can run then a report, again, just specifically on the people that are set to report to Richard, again, as his primary supervisor. So really, any report where I'm selecting an employee group, I have that capability now throughout the back office side of the world. So again, hopefully that's a good one and a benefit for those of you that are running reports and using that primary supervisor, performance manager fields. The last big thing I want to take a look at on the back office side of the world is really in setting up that team management information. And I won't drill down into huge detail here. There are some great blog articles. For those of you that know Mark Latender, he's been really shepherding this whole process all the way through and has great in-depth information. But at a high level, you see there's this new icon under people, and that is for team management groups. And I'm going to use this one that we took a look at earlier, that safety compliance item. So for any group, I can set, of course, the language, a name. Is it published? Very similar to an advisor survey. I could put in a reference link if I wanted, and then if I want some instructions in a custodian. But the real key is on this next tab, I pick out each of those items. Now, this is published, so I can only browse. I can't edit that thing while it's in progress, but I'm saying that for this personal safety item, I can pick a rating scale and then associate teams with that particular scale. Or let me grab some others here, and we can take a look through. If I look at driver safety, this is one where I actually have multiple levels, right? Where a high rating would put me on a high team, a low rating would put me on a low team, and a medium puts me on a medium team there. The final icon that you have across the top is your assignment period. So just like you assign a survey out for an employee group for a period of time, here I've got a period called 2015 that runs from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and I have all of the folks assigned to that team management group that I want to include. I can also set things here like my my reminders and their frequency. So if I do have that thing assigned out, I need to get it done, I can send those notes automatically through the system. The other thing this impacts, I should give you a warning on, is they're under teams. And you may have seen this earlier because I bounced past it fairly quickly. Is on the General tab for all of my teams, I have this new drop-down for administrative control. And if it's set to all, it works just like it always has. So if I want to add people to the team, take people off of the team, all those things can be done as an administrator. If I have this team set to managed, then the only way I can add people to or remove people from that team is through that team management group assignment. And really the idea is there so that you don't have one assessment, if you will, that assigns someone to that team and another that then someone manually coming through and taking them off and having your data out of sync. So while that team is out and active and being used in those team management group surveys, it would need to be set to managed there, and then I can't, of course, change it while that thing is published and I have data recorded against it. So again, good information here on the team management function. It's something that I know not every group will use heavily, but something that so we've already got some groups that are pushing very solidly to get that guy out there. And again, you define the rating scale, you build those teams and manage those things through. So again, just a quick look there. There are also under people a couple new team management group reports, so a current period status report, and then the new assignments that get made can be reported on there as well. So with that, probably the big changes for back office in all reality, I don't see 7.2 being an upgrade that causes any fumbling either from the student side or an administrator side coming in. I think the changes are all fairly subtle, but still quite powerful in adding the functionality there. So with that, what I was going to do is let me transition back to my PowerPoint deck here, and I'm going to send this PowerPoint slide deck back out to everybody as well. But wanted to talk a couple things about getting started and some resources where to go from here. So as you're thinking about 7.2, clearly there's that initial thought of are we going to roll out things like the blog and the endorsement functions? If so, what's that skill library need to look like? Certainly something that can continue to grow and change, but something that will need to be set up for letting people enter blog articles, letting people do endorsements. That same thing leads to the learner roles. If you're going to restrict learners maybe to specific functions, then it may be worth taking a look at your learner roles and paring those things back. The same is certainly true of administrative or back office roles, user types as well. If you have folks that you don't want editing things like skill libraries, then you can make those changes to your administrative user roles. But I really think from a rollout standpoint, the learner roles are the primary focus because they do drive who can enter, update blog articles. Those images, if you have a standard collection of those guys, I believe they're 300 pixels wide is the requirement, or if there are particular pages, something certainly to start pulling together as we can load those as we go through the transition. And then what are your communications going out, if there's anything that's needed, especially if you're building some kind of expectation for your students that they do get in and take a look at things like blogs. And to help with any of those communications, we have a number of resources that live out there. First and foremost, I'm assuming everyone here has the transition document because it was linked in the same email with the registration link for this webinar. If not, or if you just want a copy to further distribute, I will send out to everybody attending this slide deck as well as the transition document later today. And what you can do, certainly copy and paste, share that guy around. Don't have another webinar scheduled at this point, but do have a recorded webinar out that covers these changes. Of course, if you want to get into great detail, there's a ton of information in the blogs, especially I mentioned that team management feature there. YouTube, really starting to get more and more of these new features out. As a matter of fact, there was a waived lesson status video that was posted this morning. LinkedIn is a good option that's out there as well. Tend to keep things on LinkedIn that are new updates from a company standpoint. And if you have not followed the company RISC Inc. on LinkedIn yet, you should by all means do that, and I'll have, of course, a link to it in my email that comes out later this afternoon. But there's going to be a drawing for an iPad mini for everyone who signs up as a follower by the 1st of April. So we're just getting right in under the deadline if you want to get in and do that. The final thing, I didn't put it on this screen because I'm just blatantly neglectful, is the 2015 user conference in Austin this October. So if you've not registered for that, I'd certainly encourage you to do so. We have Aaron Silvers from Making Better that should be providing a keynote for the conference this year. Lots of new features and functions coming through, so would love to see you guys in Austin in mid-October there, and of course I'll include that in my email as well. With that, I was going to open the floor. If there are any questions you want to drop into that chat window there. I'd say we're about 20 minutes to the top of the hour, and would love to answer any more of those questions if you have. Let's say the chat window looks very, very quiet this morning. It's always funny. I did one of these sessions on Tuesday afternoon. You end up with those afternoon call, or last Thursday afternoon, you end up with questions in the 2 o'clock call, the 2 o'clock webinars, and no questions in the 10 o'clock webinars. All right, I do have one that came in that says, can an administrator set a student's favorites? But there's not really a good native way to do that inside the system. I would have to find out if it's something that could be pushed out, in some other way there. They just not one that I know offhand. So, any other questions? All right. If not, now, but you do have questions that come up later, of course, never hesitate to reach out to me. If you do have questions and are interested in talking about upgrading the help desk at VTA support@risc-inc.com can help push those things through. Oh, Kim, I see. Looks like a raised hand there. Can you drop a question into the chat box, or let me see, it may be an errant message there. So I'm going to see if I can get that last question. If not, and if you guys start to drop off, like I said, I will send out information about getting back to this meeting later today, along with the slide deck and transition document. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to let us know. And with that, I appreciate your time and hope you have a fantastic remainder to your day.